Welcome to the third episode of the podcast series, The Sweetest Deal. This series is possible thanks to our cooperation with Intertops Poker. This time around we have a very interesting guest who lives in Las Vegas, who's been in poker for 25 years or so. In Sweden we have an expression called a love child has many names. This guy is known as Kid Poker, Teen Eggs, many other names. But his real name is Daniel Negreanu. So this is the third episode of The Sweetest Deal. I'm talking to Daniel Negreanu. Daniel, good to see you. How are you?
It's been a long time, man. It looks good. It's good to see you again. It's been a while.
Yeah. So how's things in Vegas?
Vegas is great. I guess we don't really leave our house. Obviously with the COVID stuff, me and my wife, we've been quarantined for about a year now. So I've only left the house about 10 times, but, we love everything we got here at the house. I got everything I need,
Yeah. And that's, when it comes to tests and stuff, if you're in a relationship and you survive a pandemic, that's about as tough as it gets.
Yeah, that's what they say, right? So, we just got married, it's only been a couple of years now. It's pretty early on. So I guess, the real test for a lot of people is, this quarantine, spending that much time with someone is either going to make you go, leave me alone, or you grow closer together. And we grew much closer together, throughout this. And we because she's not really she doesn't like to go out and hang out. We both like staying home. So it worked out really well for us.
What are there any specific, if someone asks you, what do you do do you need to get your own time sometime, or do you get that in the house?
See, that's the great thing is what she's done. And I had a previous girlfriend who was not like this at all. It didn't work because I need my independence. I need my alone time. The good news is so does she. So she's a late sleeper. She wakes up very late and goes to sleep very, very late. So right now she's still asleep. Okay, so it's like noon right now. So I have the mornings. I can go to the gym. I do all my stuff. And then in the evenings, we get together and we'll watch some shows or whatever like that. But she stays the house is kind of cut in half where in the early part of the day she's upstairs, I'm downstairs. And then, we reconvene together, either up or down. It's like dating.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's good. Of course, some people it's different way. I'm in Sweden. I don't know if you heard about the Swedish situation where we were kind of the guinea pigs of the world, where they tested things to see if it was okay with herd immunity. I don't know if you. So we had quite a few deaths. But do you have groups that you meet, any family or friends that are safe?
Literally one person, well, two people. One is my chef, and he's very, very careful. He does not leave his house either. The only place he goes is his house is my house. And then the other one is Christian Sanchez, he helps me with my computer stuff and all that. And he's also quarantined, right? The big time. So, and even when he comes here, he doesn't need to, but he comes here wearing a mask. And he does.
Really?
So this household is a pretty damn safe bubble. Nobody comes in, nobody, nothing. If I want to talk to somebody, I can talk to them like this on Skype or on Zoom or something like that.
Yeah. Have you had any scares? Anyone close to you that got the corona and was fine with it, or did you ever feel like you had it?
No, not at all. Like I said, we don't leave the house. We're pretty damn safe. Anything. If I were to leave the house, I literally leave with a mask, a cover, and a face shield. Right? I'm hoodied up. I had to deposit some money in an account, and I had to leave the house, and I was paranoid about it. But no, we haven't really had any scares close to us. Nobody in my bubble has gotten it. And some of the people that I thought friends of mine that should have it, they've never gotten it. Because I want to look at their Instagram. I'm you're literally out all the time, and I never see a mask around your neck or anything. How have you not even, not dead, but how have you not got it? It's crazy.
Yeah. I think it was tricky in the beginning because you thought that, this will blow over, But the one of the biggest problems is that you don't know the extent of this. You don't know.
Well, you thought that because you're in Sweden, and your people nah, it's fine. We're healthy here. We're not fat like Americans, who are one of the largest countries, we're not at risk. We ski, we jog, we cycle, Corona Shmona, right? So that's probably why. But here, my wife and I very early on, even before, in December, when we first started hearing about it spreading in Wuhan or whatever, we're it's going to come here. We just, if it spreads as fast, it's going to come. The world is different now. It's not in olden times where if something happens in one part of the country, it gets everywhere because we're, a global, people travel.
Mm.
So it spreads. And so we were prepared early. Like we literally didn't know how bad it was going to be, but we bought tons of pasta, beans, pasta sauce, peanut butter, like just the stuff to store, just in case, like, I don't know, maybe Amazon's not going to work. We didn't know how like severe it was going to be, but we were prepared to like live a few months at least.
Yeah, today, luckily, I mean, you have delivery from the grocery shops. You can sort that out. So we're very happy, both in Sweden and in America, to if we can and we can afford it, we can be kind of isolated and be okay, right?
Yeah, that's one of the interesting things about the world that's changed. And I think in the last year, a lot of people have sort of reflected on, what's important in their life, right? And, you think of technology and all the negatives it has attached to it, right? With people always addicted to their phone and stuff. But like now with Zoom and Skype and stuff, like people can still connect, but they do appreciate the idea of being around other people. I've never really cared. I don't like people that much, to be honest with you. Me and my wife are like, this is good. You stay at a distance, But for a lot of people, I think this has been sort of I wouldn't, maybe traumatic experience, but really like an eye opener and realizing like what's important. And for me, I thought about my life. I'm 40. How old am I? 46. I'm 46, right?
When are you born?
July 1974. I'm 46, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
And my wife. So what I've realized throughout life is, when you're young and in poker, a lot of things get you angry and you're pissed and you go, you're always involved in the drama or whatever. As you get older, you care less and less about that shit. And like now that I have my wife and my puppies and the life that I've wanted, like I don't care at all what people think of me. You want to say what you want. Who cares? I'll say whatever I want because I don't feel like I'm strapped. Thankfully, I'm with GG Poker and they sort of embrace me as who I am, authentic, whatever. Sometimes I'm going to be an asshole. Sometimes I'm going to say stupid shit. But such is life, I don't have to pretend, or whatever, like, oh, I never curse. Because I say curse words. I say fuck sometimes, if that's okay with you.
Oh my God, yes. You say it too little, man. Come on, out with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but that's for sure. Is that something that earlier in your career that you always had, everyone had temperament or like you can go into a tantrum or a bad spell of something. Have you looked back and thought that back then when you were around 30, it was more difficult for you to deal with stuff like that and feel bad about it afterwards?
I don't know. I've always been competitive. So, when you see guys like Phil Hellmuth and others, when they get so pissed off when they lose, that's because they have that inner fire, that competitive nature. I've got it too. Like, I don't like losing. I've been good at, like, for most of my career, when I'm actually at the table is, hiding it pretty well. But, like, when I'm playing online and people stream with me, I'm like, I just go fucking crazy because the person doesn't see. So I'm like, oh, eat some of that, you fucking dick. You call me with fucking 6'5", that's what you get. Oh, like that, right? So you can do that online because it's, I wouldn't do that at the table to somebody, but online, I don't know who the hell this person is. And it becomes impersonal in that regard. But yeah, I do feel free because I know my wife supports me no matter what. Like, even if I'm wrong, I'm right in her eyes, right? So it frees you up. Like, I don't like the title ambassador, poker ambassador. I think it's a stupid, goofy title where we sort of make ourselves more self-important than we really are. We're just fucking poker players, man. We play a game. We gamble for money. We take advantage of people who have gambling problems or have too much money and like to G-gen. You know what I mean? Like, let's just be real here. This isn't knitting. This isn't croquet. This isn't some, what a noble profession. We're gamblers, man. Come on, let's embrace that. That's what made poker popular. The Sammy Farhad, Devilfish, that type of person. Not the boy. Oh, he's a good boy. Fuck that. That's boring.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. Yeah. You got that kid poker thing. Was there like a thing like towards your attitude towards the game that got you that nickname, or was it just because you were so young when you came through?
Oh yeah, it started because I was just like, I started as a teenager in Toronto, and everyone called me kid because they were all 40. There was nobody my age. I was like 19, 18, and they're 40, so they called me kid. And then they put my name on the board, because like you put your name on the list and they would just put kid, KID. So I embraced kid and I made one of my email addresses Kid Poker. And so then it's like, all right, Kid Poker it is. But now I go more with
Dean Eggs.
No, like Dean Eggs, because Dean Eggs is short for, Daniel Negreanu, but whatever, Kid Poker still works.
I would like to see you 70 years old being called Kid. It would be fun.
Yeah.
Here's a kid. Oh, he's got his cane for fuck's
Well,
sake.
what? Kid Rock is like 55 or
Yeah, I
60.
know. He's all right. It's
Yeah.
a good nickname. It is for sure. No, and it's quite funny because I saw some recently, not not too long ago, when there were some what you talked about being that have those reactions that you have on your own, but now you were recording it and it was published where you had that. Oh my fuck, like that. Did you have second thoughts when you recorded that and published it online?
No, because I can laugh at myself, right? Here's the thing. I think most people can relate to that. Like, how many people have played online poker and felt that way, where you're so pissed off you want to smash your own laptop? If you haven't felt that, then you're probably not, you have no emotion, right? And I share that with people because it's authentic. When I do my vlog, people see me as I am mostly, and sometimes they see the bad parts of me. I don't cut out the bad parts because it's not real. It's inauthentic. And we live in such a fake world right now. So it's an inauthentic Instagram world where people like post this life that they have, and really deep, at home they got Oreo cookies and they're crying in their, in their sleep because they're actually sad and depressed. And we live in this world where you say the wrong thing or with the wrong phrase, oh, the mobs come out to say, oh, we got to cancel you. We got to cancel because, you said something that's offensive to this group of people and this and that. I'm like, okay, well, hey, sorry about that. But what? Want me to fucking get, you want me like, just never speak again? Because that's the thing is like so many people today are kind of forced to some degree, especially if you have a job, to live on pins and needles, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you work for a corporation, right? And then you say, you speak about a topic that's controversial, whether it's abortion, whether it's race, whether it's transgender. Like if you share your opinion on that, right? And your opinion isn't perfectly eloquent and you don't say things exactly right, you're seen as a demon, an evil, sexist, racist, blah, blah, blah. It's like they go to the extreme when, like the recent example, I don't know if you watch Bachelor, but Chris Harrison, who's the host and has been for a long time, he sort of said things in a way that he probably shouldn't have and has apologized for it. Taking him off the show for this is ridiculous. This guy's got a long career. He's not, it's like, so he said things a little bit. We can't be like that, where Obama said it best. It's like too many people point fingers at others and say like, oh, I'm woke because I see something you did that's wrong. You really want to be woke in this world. You want to be progressive and make a difference. Then actually take action. You pointing your fingers at what everybody else does wrong, like you can pass this purity test, that doesn't do any good for the world. How about go and make a difference for people in one way or another by volunteering or donating or, hiring people?
Yeah, I think one of the most difficult bits is how much weight does some of these people carry when it comes to listening to their opinion? Because sometimes one loud voice goes over 1,000 other voices just because it's loud. And especially in sensitive times when it comes to Black Lives Matter and Trump and everything. So how do we find a way to regulate these weight of these voices? Do you know what I mean?
Of
how
course.
Should we
so
go about that?
Here's the danger of what happens, in my opinion, is like, so when somebody says something slightly off color or they didn't say it properly or whatever, and they get lambasted, what are they going to do? They're going to stop. Nobody's going to say nothing publicly. Nobody's going to engage, and everyone's going to. But those conversations are going to be had behind closed doors, right? Within the bubbles of things, instead of like an educational moment where like you can say, hey, listen, that's not what we say anymore. We say it like this and like that. And you're like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know. Like if a 65-year-old dealer from Texas is dealing at the World Series of Poker, and a young girl comes down and he says, how you doing, beautiful young lady, honey? Or he says, hey, honey, how you doing, young lady? You look beautiful. Well, today you can't say that to a woman because it's but this guy doesn't mean no fucking harm. He's trying to be nice. He's not a pedophile. He's not like a sexist chauvinist. He's just an old man who didn't know that. So instead of making this guy the villain, just say, hey, listen, that's very sweet of you, but like we don't really say that anymore in that way because it's like seen in this way. And he'll go, I'm sorry. Okay, I didn't know.
I'll try to think of that. Yeah.
But the pitchforks is not the approach.
No.
It's just not the way to go. Like, yeah.
It's so tricky, and of course and then you have the guys that is chauvinistic and says the same thing that he says, oh, I didn't mean anything by that. So it's very tricky because we don't have any experience of living in an environment like we do now.
I think the way you judge people is you judge them by their actions, okay? Just really judge them by their actions. Obviously, words do matter, right? But, a phrase not fit, phrased exactly right pales in comparison to action. So let's take two examples, right? There's one guy, he's a white man, he's 55 years old, never said a racist word in his life, never said the N-word, never made a comment racist, right? But he owns a company. Never hired a black person, never done anything with black people or Mexicans or Asians or whatever, right? But he's never said anything racist, right? Versus another guy who works in the inner city, who hires minorities, who helps them get back on their feet. But he has in his past sang a song and used the N-word, and spoke out of color and made a racist comment, right? Okay. Now, if you look at the actions of one and the other, which one is the problem, right? Is it the guy who said the N-word, 15 years ago? Or is it the guy who secretly, systematically, pushes forward like patriarchy and racism by institutionally not hiring people versus the other guy who's in the trenches. He's doing things. But listen, he made an off-color comment, whatever. He's apologized for it. Let's move on. You know, like we can't judge. This is what we do today. We judge people today, we judge people of the past based on standards of today. Okay?
Right,
perfect
right.
So
we
use the word retard, right? Retard is, the actual definition means like slower process.
Yeah.
But obviously people who are mentally ill, were called retards. But in the old days, we used to say that, like, oh, come on, Ricard, don't be a retard, right?
Yeah.
But we've learned that, that's not okay, right? Because it's, it's offensive to these people, so we don't say it anymore, right? But if I said it 10 years ago, right, you're going to tell me I'm an awful person and I'm insensitive because I said something that everybody else was fucking saying, Like when they start combing through video and, events from 20, 30 years ago and say, oh, this is so wrong. I'm like, not by those days standards. They are today, as we learn, which is great, but there needs to be a lot more just empathy, and also intention matters. Like people always, your intention doesn't matter. It does. What people actually meant to do, are they, if they said it wrong, you can let them know. But as long as their intentions are good, give them the benefit of the doubt.
I think this is so tricky, and I thought about it a lot. It is how to get this on the right side and to kind of get rid of this, because the cancel culture and all these things are so tricky to deal with, and all these, where there's so much diversity. You have a lot of that in the States, for sure. We have it in Sweden as well. But
I think there will be a pendulum swing, right? So, like in history, there have been a time where we really needed political correctness because people were way out of line. There was just some stuff completely out of line, right? So it was too far in one way. Now, people are getting woke and it's going way the other way, to the extreme where it's like, give me a break. This is getting ridiculous. To now, when they're like, Dr. Seuss is no longer making, comic books or whatever because 50 years ago he used something that was offensive or whatever. So now I think there'll be a pendulum swing and a fight back to the, somewhere that's reasonable. I hope anyway. But the danger is on a lot of university campuses, especially in America, kids are coddled and they're almost told it's a right for them not to be offended or ever hurt. Like they feel it's like a personal right, which it isn't. In the real world, someone can call you a fat fuck, a piece of shit, stupid, ugly Swede. Fuck you. They can do that, right? You can't sue them for that.
No.
You know what I mean? You don't have a right to be treated well and all these kind of things. People are going to be assholes in the world. So to some degree, I think the way in which we prepare those kids is we're setting them up for failure because, they're in this nice, safe bubble where everyone's like, oh, this. But then when they go in the real world, they'll deal with things that maybe they're not equipped to deal with.
Yeah, sometimes if you get the question, would you like to be younger? Would you like to go back when you were younger? And usually these days I say no. I'm fine with where I am. It's tough to grow up these days. I think it's almost tougher than when we grew up.
It's tougher too because of one other aspect, which is everybody's life is now and likes and in your social media profiles bullying when you're a kid. When we were a kid, bullying was like a kid in school in your class who gives you some shit for something and tries to fight you or whatever, right? Today, it's all these people on the internet saying you're ugly, you have a fat nose, you smell bad, all this kind of stuff. And for a young girl so that's why you see suicide rates going up because now you look at a 16. I saw this video, it freaked me out. Well, there was 30 girls for a party, 16-year-old girls having a birthday party, right? And there's a picture of them. Okay, 20 girls, some on the floor, some on the couch, every single one of them on their phone posting. I'm like, who are you texting that's not in the room right now? Don't you have all your friends here?
Everyone is here.
So it's difficult because of the pressure. I saw a statistic that kids that age on TikTok or Snapchat or whatever are posting 20 to 30 videos a day. Listen, I've led an interesting life. I can't imagine 30 videos that people want to see. Look what I ate. Look what I drank. Look at me smile. Look at my belt. What the hell?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's such a different atmosphere. And the tricky thing is that when we grew up, Uh, we had parents that had kind of similar circumstances when they grew up. So for us to instruct the younger people is a bit tricky, because the development goes so fast. So it's hard
Yeah,
to
we
give
grew
them
up,
tips
of
and
course.
this is how you should deal with this because I don't know. Yeah.
Right. It's difficult. Here's the problem. So, like for a lot of young kids, their self-worth is tied to how many likes a post gets. So if it doesn't get likes and people have negative things, like they feel bad,
Mm.
right? So like what we talked earlier about technology and how great it is during this time where we can connect and we can do this, like have a chat like this, even though you're in Sweden. But there's pros and cons, and the negative, the downside of it is the sort of, I guess, people's identity
Mm.
being tied, or their self-worth really
Mm.
tied to their social media presence, and that can be dangerous for a generation. It's not their fault. It's
Mm.
not their fault.
Mm.
This is not their fault, right? We're all addicted to our phones.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
most.
We
I know
will.
I am.
Yeah, I am too. Yeah, for sure. I did most of my traveling from the years 2005 to 2016, let's say. I mean, those were more or less the big years when it came to when the boom came through. I mean, the boom came a bit earlier with the Moneymaker, of course, 2003 that was. But then from 5 to 16. Now, when was the time when it started to go down a little bit when it came to media in poker? Do you remember? And for
Yeah,
yourself?
so we had a major event, a catastrophe in America, which was Black Friday, right? Which was the day where the DOJ just shut down the Poker Stars, Full Tilt Poker, Ultimate Bet or whatever. I think it was, yeah, all three of them shut it down, right? So that made it difficult to justify shows like Poker After Dark and shows like the big game and high stakes poker. What people don't realize, and Poker Go today is trying to revitalize stuff. High stakes poker is back and it's a great show. It's behind a paywall though, because someone's got to pay the bills. And this is what people don't understand is for poker to thrive, right? It has to be on mainstream television.
Yeah.
Well, when they had the opportunity with like Full Tilt and Stars to pay for shows for programming, to put them on NBC and Fox or whatever, to get eyeballs on it, they had a back end way to make revenue to get more customers, right? But now with all these American customers no longer available, what's the point?
Yeah.
Right? You can't put TV on. It's just because no one's going to pay for it. People always think like, oh, you must make a lot of money off this TV show. No, it's like an infomercial, right?
Right.
Poker After Dark was on at 2 a.m., right? Which is dead air for those things. You're like, all right, you want to put poker on, you pay us.
Yeah.
So no, they would pay. They didn't make money off that. The whole idea was it was a marketing expenditure. So when that happened and you started losing poker on a regular basis on TV, the popularity started to, wane a little bit. And then the emergence, I think, of a new generation of players that were on TV that sort of took on a different approach, right? In my time, people were more like loosey-goosey, they were characters, they were like shady, hustlers. And now it's like, a kid who went to college, stands like a robot, plays very slowly, wears a hoodie, sunglasses, all that kind of stuff. And that becomes less interesting to sell because what made poker popular is the characters itself, right?
Yeah, that was
So I think there was a turn that way, and that probably turned some people off. And just the game's getting tougher as well. People were having a harder time winning because, people got better.
Yeah, it's quite funny. It's that Black Friday. I think it was mid-April in 2011. It's 10 years ago now. I mean, I know you went to Canada. I don't know if you ever went to Mexico, like a lot of players did, but you played some online anyway. In going back to Canada, didn't you? At least in the beginning.
Not a ton,
No.
not a lot. I was doing what I could, But yeah, I mean, I would play like the major tournaments and
Yeah.
stuff like that
W
online.
Coop, Scoop.
Right, yeah. But I'm kind of a homebody, so I didn't travel as much for it. But a lot of people did. A lot of people were like, well, listen, this is my livelihood. So what am I going to do? And it's kind of crazy for a government to say like, all right, you can sit in your underwear on a couch outside the line, but not inside the line. Like, what do you care where I am?
Yeah.
I'm still going to do it. And it's unfortunate. You know what? I know a lot of people who were doing like, VPNing.
Yeah,
So they started
for
saying,
sure.
all right, well, I mean, listen, I know this one guy. He lives in Chicago. He has 2 kids, 2 young children, right? He makes his living playing online poker, right? So he set up an account in Mexico or whatever, right? Now, do I begrudge this guy for setting up a VPN so that he can be home with his kids and play online on his couch as himself rather than have to go find a hotel, in Mexico to sit there for a week, be away from his family. Do I begrudge him for that? Absolutely not. I don't give a shit. I know that don't VP. I don't give a shit that people do that. And I know some people that do that. I have no issues with it because as long as you're playing under your own account, you're not multi-accounting. I don't see the big deal because I'm not morally against playing online poker. So why should I listen to, the U.S. government says you shouldn't play. Well, fuck the U.S. government.
Yeah.
You don't know shit about online poker.
Yeah. We had some good hopes anyway that since I know you met Obama quite a few times and he liked poker in a way, he played some as well, that there was a chance that he would turn it around, but until 2016 he wasn't able.
I heard about a year ago that Obama was in a press meeting, and he has a book, and his book didn't have pages on it. Okay, it didn't have like a cover.
Okay,
it was written pages. You know what the book was that he was reading in these meetings? My book.
Really? Are you serious?
My poker book, yeah. So yeah, but you're right. So
that's funny. So you couldn't tell, but it was yours.
Knowing what he was reading. But he alone can't fix it, right? It's unfortunate. Like at the federal level, I just don't think you're ever going to see anything pass in the U.S. The good news is we are starting to see more states go, stupid. Why wouldn't we just take the revenue? They're just going to pay tax. Why not just get the tax money off it? So we have some, legal online poker in Vegas. We have some in, Atlantic City, in Michigan, Pennsylvania. If you can get New York and California on board, which are tough, but they're big, now you're talking about like a very big, player pool that can sort of reignite another little, online poker boom.
And so what is, is that something that you think will happen in the next year or two?
Well, I do. I don't think California we're ever going to get really because there's an issue with the tribes there who run the Indian, what do you call it? They have gambling there.
Reservations or
what's that? Yeah, the reservations. Yeah. They're opposed to online gambling because they don't understand it. So without them on board, it'd be very difficult to get it going in California. But I don't think what you'll see is like at the federal level, there'll be a law that says, it's legal across but as long as you go state by state and get to the big states, the biggest carrot I could see would be if we can find a way to connect with the international player pool in some way with other countries, that would really ignite it. Because right now, a lot of countries are fenced in, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you can play only, if you're in France, you can only play on French websites. You can't play with people from Italy. You have people from Italy, you can only play with people from Italy and Spain. So they separated it rather than made it one big player pool. And the bigger the pool, just the better it is for people. Like GG Poker, we're obviously trying to get into the United States as well, everywhere, because, they're the fastest growing site. I'm shocked at how fast GG Poker is growing, honestly.
Yeah, I think everyone is. Yeah.
They're the number one poker site in the entire world, GG Poker, now, right? Which is like 3 years ago. I'm like, what is that? Who is that?
Yeah.
Never heard of it. When I signed with them, when I decided to make the deal with them, it was not many people on the site or whatever. I signed with them. We blew it up. We got to deal with the World Series of Poker, and the software is just so much better than everything else, like by a wide margin, that people just really just like playing on GG Poker. And the games are good, and the structure and the formats are great. So that's been fun working with them.
Yeah, I a couple of weeks ago I did a Barry Greenstein, the part 2 of this podcast series, and he talked about the thing that he liked the most was when he was with PokerStars in the beginning, and he had a say. He had a direct connect with the top of the organization, and that was the best bit of being in poker. And I guess when it comes to GG Poker now, have you been part of? Have they listened to you? Have they asked you how to do things? Have you been involved in that way?
Big time. So here's the thing. When I left Stars, I didn't have any plans on signing with anybody else. I got offers immediately. I'm like, no, I'm good. Just going to live the married life, chill. I have money. I don't need it. And then the people at GG Poker helped me with an issue I was having with some staking stuff I was doing for World Series of Poker. And they said, we'll do it for you. I said, okay, great. So we created a relationship. I met with the boss guy right here at this table, started talking, and I started to listen to what he had to say. And I'm like, this guy gets it. He really gets it. He knows where poker's going, and he has a good feel. And sort of the conversation came up about wanting to work with them. And he said, which is true, from a software perspective, they're leagues above everybody else. It's just so cool. Like, it's genuinely fun playing on the software with all the emojis and animations and snaps and stuff like that. But the one thing they didn't have was a marketing department at all. Right?
Really?
They really didn't have one. Yeah, they just were like, we have great software. We're going to build that way. So I said to them, here's the thing. Like, well, you guys know software. I know marketing. Right. So essentially, they, you know, asked for direction from me and Brian Ballsbog, who's my agent guy, and we brought in somebody. Remember Wicked Chops?
Yeah, for sure.
We brought in Wicked Chops because we needed somebody really, really good who understands the industry and who we trust. So we brought him on board to build out the team, and we started building out the team. And I remember going to Toronto and meeting with the team, and it's like there's like 20 people. I'm like, how long have you been with the company? Oh, a week. How long have you been with the company? 8 days. How long have you been with the company? Today's my first day. It's like, okay, so it's really cool to meet this group of people and really start from scratch. That's what was fun for me, is take GG Poker, which at the time was like an up and coming whatever, but not really on the radar. And let's see let's see where we can take this thing, and to see where it's gone in such a short period of time, it blows my mind. Like I expected them to grow, but to surpass the largest sites that were existing already, and to make the deals that we have, it's a testament to the good job Chops has done, creating the World Series of Poker deals, and just we've made a lot of deals that I think show guts and show chutzpah. Like GG Poker is willing to take chances, they're willing to take risks to bring in the right kind of players and stuff like that, and I think they get rewarded for that because ultimately, what do people want? Good games,
good
right?
games,
If you want to play in a good game, GG, good game, get it?
Yeah, of course. That's great news, and you did a great progress, of course. Where do you see it going from here? I mean, it took such big leaps already, but what are the next steps, and how do you work dealing with the pandemic and talking about it in your marketing? Is that helpful that people are at home?
Well, I mean, obviously, listen, when more people are at home, like they got more free time and they're going to get sick of Netflix. And, that did create a little bit of a boom across the board for online poker in general, and obviously for GG Poker. As far as like where the company goes next, I think expanding. I'd really like to see, and it takes time, to get a license to operate in the United States. You have to be vetted and all these types of things. The good news is I think with GG, because of the way the company's set up, it can be fast tracked pretty much. Like it's not like some other companies that have so much red tape and you have to like vet 80 people. It's really like a small group who created this software, who are involved in the company. So I'm hopeful that, what I'm really hopeful for, honestly, is that I can play GG Poker from here in Vegas.
Oh, that'd
like
be
if
nice.
GG Poker, and there's some big deals I think that could make that happen, hopefully in the future. But if I could play GG Poker from here, I would stream every day. I would be on stream. I would do Twitches. I would do all this kind of stuff, and it'd be great to really promote the company. Because otherwise, like right now with the pandemic, I don't want to travel.
Right.
I don't
No,
want to
especially not now. Yeah, but I think what is there for one of the key things would be to get the right people's ears. For you guys like you and perhaps other well-known faces in the game to be able to reach out to those guys who decides if it's going to open up or not. Now, how do you work with that?
Well, I mean, I've gone to Sacramento and I've talked to different politicians and stuff. And here's the main issue. The main issue is this. Most of these politicians spend 40 hours a week raising money for their next campaign. Like that's
so sick.
The job is they're not actually doing things. They're actually just thinking about how am I going to stay in this job, right? So they spend 80% of their time doing that. And then you think of the issues that they face, the constituents care about, right? In California, water conservation, other places maybe air pollution, whatever. Poker doesn't rank very high on their list, right? So unless it makes a lot of financial sense, and for a lot of years, especially a lot of the Republican politicians in America, were being supported by Sheldon Adelson, who's now passed away from Venetian, who was online poker's enemy number one. So now that he's passed away, I imagine that's opened up. Because I spoke to a lot of these Republican guys who are like, listen, I don't have a problem with online poker. I think it should be legal, whatever. But like, Sheldon would kill me. Sheldon would absolutely just cut my throat if I, voted for it. So even though they know it's probably a good thing and whatever, they still were handcuffed. I think going forward, just having these conversations and, reaching out to the different legislatures and stuff. Again, I think it's important for people not to get their hopes up in America of like anything federal happening, because it's just not even on the radar. But just, pressure the states, state by state. If there's 50 states, if you can get 15 of them, all of a sudden you got something.
I think it's important also to have a plan to show that this is economically a good thing, to tax it in the right way, which was a problem in the early years, Daniel, when the companies were outside America and they didn't get any revenue from it, right? So,
right, which is bad for them, because what one of the talking points I said to them is like, listen, online poker is going to happen either way, okay? whether you get tax money or not is totally up to you, because unregulated sites will always be a thing. Okay. So you cannot protect these consumers from them because it's unregulated. How about this? You get the tax money. You get a chance to protect the consumer, and you make all this money for something that you can't stop anyway, because you just can't stop people from playing online poker if they want to, and sites. So it's I forgot where else I was going with that. Anyway.
No, but that's interesting. Just I don't know if this sounds bad to bring it in, but it kind of remind me of what is in California now. It's legal with marijuana.
Yeah.
And
now I remember where I was going to go with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, the hypocrisy stuff. Like, so you have lottery, you can bet on horses, you can do sport. Wait a minute, you can do all these things which you can't beat, but not poker, which you can beat. Right? It's so stupid. Like, why would state lotteries are just a horrible bet. People do it because $1 I'll win 10 million. Yeah, but you're just losing your dollar.
Yeah.
And there's no chance for you to be plus EV. You can't make a profession out of playing the lottery, right? So, why would that be legal in their eyes and okay to take money from their, constituents, but not give people an opportunity to use their brain and play a game that they enjoy, So there's a lot of obviously good arguments, but the bottom line is it just comes down to getting the votes and getting, enough people on both sides, which is difficult in America now to ever get a bill where both sides look at it and go, you know what, that's a good thing. It makes sense. It's all about, what does our party want? Oh, they want that.
Yeah.
We'll go the other way then.
And what will increase my chances to be elected and become a famous person or a governor or a senator or whatever? Oh my God. It's so funny with American politics. I've been into American politics for many years because I found it fascinating. And it's been pretty fascinating over the past 4 or 5 years, I have to say. Are you interested in politics?
Of course, obviously everybody in the country became more interested because of what we faced over the last 4 years with such a divisive character, where the country was really fractured and split, where you had people, you have these QAnon people who believe that, Hollywood liberals are eating children and using their blood to stay young. They actually, it sounds insane, but they actually believe this shit, right? So, when those people emerge, you're like, what the hell's, actually happening in this country? But what I've noticed, which is great, is since January 20th or so, the country starts to feel a little more normal, right? Mm. Like we actually have a plan for COVID. Like Joe Biden just recently said that by the end of May, which is well ahead of schedule, we should have vaccine available for everybody who wants one, which is a really good thing, because when he came into office, there really was no plan for this. Right. So, I don't know. Fuck, I'm golfing. I'm busy, which is probably better. It's better, like him being on the golf course doing nothing was probably better than him having ideas. But it's been sad what social media, what himself has done to this country, because it's ripped it apart to the point where I don't see a time where we can go back to normalcy in that regard. When Ronald Reagan was president, he was a Republican. Democrats liked him too, they supported him or whatever. But more and more we see, probably since Bush and then Obama. And then of course Trump, it's like, if it's not your guy, it's just like, I hate this guy. There's no more pride in that. And I did not like our past president, because I didn't like what he represented. I thought he was a con artist and a bullshitter and just dangerous for the country. So I guess I'm part of the problem in that regard, because I was like, I root for the country, but I don't root for him because he's an asshole.
It's interesting with some of my American friends, they still think that Americans are like, they want the war, they want the diversity, they want their team to this is my team and this is my team and they are the enemy. And what I heard about Biden, when he tries to calm down the temperature, a lot of people wants the temperature up there because it's kind of part of their lifestyle, Well,
yeah, I guess it's a form of tribalism, right? It's a form of sport. Like, when you have a favorite hockey team or baseball team or whatever, you root for them and you root against the other guys, right? Well, this is a similar idea where we're really like splitting people. And now that we're splitting people based on political beliefs, like when you think about it, nationalism, right? When you think of the term nationalism, like, I'm Swedish, good for Sweden. I'm like, what did you do to be Sweden other than just literally be born on a line that was like over here instead of being born in Finland? So because you were born 3 miles here versus here, I'm this is the best, but they're awful. Like, it's so cockamamie and stupid, right? Imaginary lines we create. But people, buy into this, right? Like, you got to have your spirit, your team. And you're absolutely right. And that's the biggest part of the problem, is the tribalism is worse now than ever because, we went to such an extreme with the last 4 years. right? Where there's people on the fringe who, like I said, like the ones who buy into this QAnon cult conspiracy stuff. It's maddening, you know. It's like it's sad too because it's fractured families and friendships. Because when somebody goes down that rabbit hole, there's really no coming back for them. It's
Right.
very, very difficult to wake them up to go, you know, this is all bullshit, right?
Yeah.
Even
Yeah, but
when nothing they think is going to happen happens, nothing comes true, they still buy the bullshit.
yeah, but what I find fascinating is difficult even for Americans, but from Europe, being a European, how many is there really? Because you have a big block in the middle that are not that concerned. You know, they think things are good. Then you have the guys on the far right and the guys on the far left. How big is this group percentage-wise? Would you guess?
But yeah, you actually made a good point earlier when you talked about the loudest voices, right?
Yeah.
The loudest voices are on the far right and the far left. They're the loudest voices, but they're the minority of the country by a wide margin. So imagine having like 5 to 10% on this side, 5 to 10% on this side, and the rest of the country somewhere in the middle where they're reasonable human beings to some degree, right? It's the problem is with social media now, those voices are amplified,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, right.
I mean, they finally took Trump off Twitter, which has made a real positive difference on the entire world.
On the entire world.
This guy at 5 a.m. just watching Fox News, and this is where he was getting his news. I'm like, you're the president. You are the news. Like, you're supposed to be the source of it, not like go to a TV show and go, oh, look what's happening in the world. I'm like, you're supposed to know what's happening in the world, right? So the fact that social media has also, and they're very good at this, they create like sort of echo chambers and bubbles where, you know, your feed is just going to have stuff that reconfirms your own beliefs, right? Whether if you're on the left, you see stuff that supports your views. Right? All you see is Antifa this, Antifa that. Like, it's like I've done that too. I went down the rabbit hole to see, like, well, let me look at some of these people, look at their feed, you know, on their Twitter. And I'm like, they see things I don't see. Which
of course, of course, it's totally different. You get the people that think alike. And if you get fed with that, of course, how can you change an opinion? That goes for us as well, because all our friends are on the same side. So that's not good that either. How do you?
Well, and that's a bigger problem. Like I used to say, I used to have dinners before Trump with Republicans, and I'm liberal. I'm a classic liberal, if you will. I don't consider myself far left at all.
Yeah.
You know, I'm reasonable, moderate, like Obama and Clinton or whatever. But I used to have discussions with people who were Republican on healthcare, taxation, all these, you know, critical issues. And we had reasonable, like, good dinner. These were friendly people that I was friends with. Past Trump, there was no talking to them anymore, because it was never a question of like, let me hear what you have to say and go, oh, you know, you make a good point. Because often I would hear them say something like, no, you're right. They're like, one of my guys is a Republican. He's like, you know, he doesn't think, you know, the rich should be taxed more or whatever. And one of his reasons is like, I mean, I don't like how they spend my tax money. Right? He's like, they're spending my tax money on all these military planes and, you know, stuff that I don't want to spend my money in. How about let me keep my own money and I'll choose to give it to charity however I want to. I'm like, I can respect that opinion. You know, I can expect where you're coming from. But if we don't have the conversations anymore where we're trying to hear each other and trying to come to like actually a compromise or a sort of consensus, we just end up in two camps that don't talk to each other. And when we do, nobody listens. They're always listening. They're just waiting for you to finish so they can tell you their talking points. So, for example, a simple example, you could say, you know, Trump was accused by 20 women of sexually assaulting them. Do you believe that's the case? That you know they're all lying? What do they answer with? Well, Bill Clinton got a blowjob from Monica Lewinsky, so how about that? I'm like, I didn't ask about Bill Clinton, but that's absolutely wrong. But can we focus on what I asked you about? It's called whataboutism.
I was about to say, that's one of my favorite words. Whataboutism. What a word, huh?
Right. It's basically a way to not answer the question because you don't have a good answer and just point the finger back. Well, you're no better. I'm like, okay, but let's just focus on this. Okay, you're right. What Bill Clinton did was wrong.
We admit that, but let's get back to the subject.
I'm not condoning that, but like, are you saying that that all these women are lying, that none of them have a case? Is that what you're trying to say? You know? No, what about Hillary and blah, 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 and Benghazi and the emails? You know?
But what is a way then to, I don't know, I mean, how would you get back to this? One thing, he didn't get voted there, so he's not the president anymore. That's a big step, the major step. But how will you, what is another way to mend this gap and try to get people to grow their ear outs again? Do you know what I mean?
Listen, I wish there was an easier solution, but unfortunately the way that the country's cut up and the fact that we have what's called gerrymandering and an electoral college, it's like the majority are always like the majority of Americans are almost always going to vote Democrat. They've been the popular vote has gone to a Democrat for like 20 years, and it always will because of California and New York. The problem is little spots like what is it, North Dakota and South Dakota. Yeah. There's 80 people that live there, but they have a North and a South, and they get votes for both, and they get to elect senators on both. So it becomes more difficult. I don't think there is an easy solution, unfortunately, because of social media. I think like the social media companies, as difficult it is to say, because they have to sort of allow for free speech, they have to be part of the solution with technology to stop. Because here's what's coming. That's really bad. I don't know if you're familiar with deepfakes, but deepfakes. Ricardo, I can literally do a deepfake where I have your image and I can make it look like you did something horrible on video and show that and put that on Facebook or whatever. And now you're a horrible person. It wasn't actually you. It wasn't real, but it doesn't matter. Because as we learned, on Facebook, so many people got their news from Facebook, from posts that they saw, and they just believed everything they read. Imagine what if you have video where you could actually have Obama's voice saying something like, "I love Satan. Satan's the greatest," and they hear that and they're like, "Whoa," you know what I mean? So that's a big risk and a danger in the future where technology is just going to have to stay one step ahead of it. But as far as like uniting the country, I honestly think that we're in a better place today than we were because some of the QAnon people are realizing like, yeah, maybe that was bullshit. And Biden is very calm. Like people say Biden is a boring president. Perfect.
Yeah, that's what you need.
I don't need to have the news on my channel always talking about a tweet about this guy's lame. She has a fat face, lame, sad, pathetic. Like I don't want to hear this fourth grade English on my screen.
No, we don't need that.
Where the news channels go over it for days and days and days. Like if Biden's not in the news for the next 2 years, fantastic. That would be good for me.
Yeah. No, we had a quite interesting discussion a few years back. I think it was regarding when Brexit came through, when the UK wants to get out of the European Union. And some people discussed that maybe the democracy, the word democracy is outdated, which is interesting. That maybe not in the environment we live today with social media and so on, the public is not fit enough to make a decision. Now we should look into other solutions to that. Is that something that is discussed in the States as well? You know what I mean?
So that's something that I've spent a little bit of time studying because I find it really fascinating and interesting and actually sad as well. When you look historically, democracies have always ended up kind of failing.
Yeah.
Because eventually the people, so what you end up seeing is a lot of authoritarian regimes who are stable, if you will. Like if you look at China right now, China is not, they have humanitarian crisis and all that kind of stuff, but like their economy's doing well. They have complete control. Like if you look at how they were able to handle, the COVID situation, like you can't leave your house. Like they got drones, people like stay home. Here's the thing. I don't want to live in that, but I get it. Like I get how that sort of can be appealing to some because it actually works better. And the idea is that people don't know what's good for them, and people are typically sheep. I still believe in democracy, and I want it to be a thing. But there's, of course, it isn't a perfect solution, as you said. I don't know of a better one specifically. No. But I do think, I do believe in freedom, and I think freedom is important. And I wouldn't want to live in an authoritarian regime where they tell me how many children I'm allowed to have, whether I'm allowed to use the internet, like in North Korea and stuff. Like it's a slippery slope. How far down the line do you go if you give government complete control? And that's one of the beautiful things about, America historically. But you're right. Sometimes in a democracy, it can lead to some really bad outcomes.
Yeah. What do you have there? Look at that. Is that Rocky or Apollo?
This is Rocky right here. Apollo's over there.
Ah, look at that kid. Isn't he beautiful, huh?
Yeah, he's a cutie.
How old are they now?
They're what, like 3 years old now? I want to say
3 years old. You happy? You're happy with them? Your kids?
Oh, yeah. They're great. They're great dogs. They're so great, and they love Amanda, and they love Joel, who just showed up. They love Patty, my assistant. Yeah, they're very lovey-dovey dogs. I don't know how that happened because my other dog Mushu was like he would bite you with venom. Like
he bit me. You remember?
He bit you. Yeah. Not surprised.
It was just very protective of you, right? You were the one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, now that's a lot of talk. I mean, I started this series quite recently, and there's usually so much to talk about. And what I miss is because back in the day we used to have a talk every 2 months or something, and we always had things to talk about. And usually back then it was about poker and tournaments here and tournaments there. So maybe we will have time to have another talk down the road. What do you think,
Let's
Daniel?
do another one. This is a good amount for now, and then we can always do a part two.
That's a good plan, I think. And we've
Yeah.
gone through so many things, and we stayed away quite a lot from poker, and I like that. It's good
Yeah.
to you.
It's fun.
Are you happy, Daniel?
Very happy. We're like, and I almost feel uncomfortable saying that sometimes because like people during the pandemic, obviously that's a tragedy and it's traumatic for a lot of people. But for me and my wife, it's actually there's been a lot of blessings in disguise. The gratitude of just, the life that we have and the way that we get to live. I mean, I'm one of the lucky ones. And, I know there's a lot of people who are suffering out there. And, I don't take for granted how lucky I am to be where I'm at.
Excellent. No, of course we should talk about more things I mean, the Helmut thing, the discussion there, and so on. But let's take a talk soon again, Daniel. We have another talk, and we talk about new things and poker and so on.
Absolutely, man. It was good hearing from you.
Good to hear from you too. We talk soon again. Say hi to Amanda.
All right. Take care.
Okay, bye.
Later, bud.
Well, that was a very interesting talk with Daniel. As you could hear, it was not that much poker. It was more about politics and life, which I enjoy talking about. This podcast series is made possible thanks to our sponsor, Intertops Poker. We are back in a few weeks with another interesting guest. Thanks for listening and watching. Bye.